Monaco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Matt Smith. He's the other half of Doug Casey's Take on YouTube. I have spoken to Doug, but I haven't spoken to Matt, and I really enjoy his chats that he has with Doug. And recently they were speaking about a new book that they're bringing out called The Preparation. And even though my channel is like the age group that watches it is mostly over 45, I think this book is going to be useful for everyone, especially the younger people. So, Matt, welcome to my channel, and maybe add something about yourself, and we can start talking about the book.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you, Mario, for being here. I'm a big fan of yours. Have watched your show for years and years, and love what you do. And it's a real honor to be here to talk to you and your audience. Um, in my, I say pre-COVID era, I was a serial entrepreneur. That's basically all I did, and I changed a lot about my life when COVID came about. Kind of being able to see what was coming, I guess. And we made a lot of adjustments to our life, and actually ended up moving down to Uruguay. And now basically I'm a cattle rancher down here and I do a podcast with Doug. And that's kind of what I do as my job, if you call it a job. And Doug and I wrote this book recently called The Preparation. It's here. And Doug had actually been trying to get me to write this book with him for 12 years. The first time he pitched me on it was I was visiting him in Aspen, and we were driving to lunch, and he said, Matt, I wish you'd write this book with me. I wanted to call it The Renaissance Man. And the book essentially, the idea of it is that it would talk about the three most important verbs in every language: be, do, and have. And I asked him a couple more questions, and honestly, he really wasn't clear about it, and I had no interest in writing a book. I mean, Doug told me, Doug's written many books, and he told me how difficult it is and how you don't make any money doing them, and it's basically not worth it. And then now he's pitching me on writing a book, so I had no interest. He brought it up many times, maybe every year or two he'd bring it up again, and I still had no interest. But then, when my son was 17, and he was unsure about what he was going to do. And I mean, you think about most 17-year-olds, they're, you know, full of kind of hopes and anxiety and fears and a lot of uncertainty about what to do. And especially in the post-COVID era, and him also happening to grow up in a household where his father, me, I'm a college dropout. I never said college is the key to success. So he wasn't brainwashed with that idea because clearly we're successful, no college. So I could see the uncertainty in him, and I went back to Doug and I said, Doug, maybe we should do this, if nothing else, for him. And so, in fact, this book was actually written directly for my son, but the book wouldn't have been written without him, not just because of his existence, but because he, in the 2 years essentially that it took Doug and I to actually get this book together, my son has been an active beta tester. He's been our guinea pig. Because what we started out with was basically a couple of sketched out ideas and theories. I mean, Doug's a philosopher mostly. He's known as an economist, among other things, but he's really a philosopher. So we started off with this rough sketch. But, you know, when ideas hit reality, things have to change. So we had to make a lot of adjustments. You know, where do they need more direction and less direction and in order to be successful? And in the preface of the book, Max writes a preface, and he talks about just the things that he's done in the last 2 years. And I got to tell you, what he's done and accomplished in the last 2 years is more than most people do in a life. And it's impressive. To me as a father, I'm inspired by it. It makes me want to do and try more. I mean, as we get older, Mario, we know what we're good at, and we do the good things we're good at. And we stopped seeking out these novel actions, but so I started working hard on my Spanish, and I started even learning to code in Python. Why? I don't know exactly. I figured it might be helpful. So just trying new things to try and improve myself, because I see how actively my son has been in doing that by following the specific directions we give him in the book. And so what the book is specifically targeted to people at that age group, but I don't think the benefits are limited to that age group. Um, and it's we propose it primarily as an alternative to going to college. And because especially in the US, college has become, well, it's incredibly expensive, but it's also failing to do its primary job, which is to prepare one for the real world, a real life. Just last week, I saw three articles, and in the Wall Street Journal and elsewhere, that talked about the people coming out of college not being able to get jobs now. And this is before you really AI has really started to take effect. So it's a real problem, and there's a better way of doing things. And I think we outline in detail in this book, tell people exactly what to do in order to make sure that they will be successful in life.
Yeah, I was listening to you and Doug. You made a video yesterday about the new book, and you said your son was lost and anxious at 17, and Doug said, "What 17-year-old?" And I could relate to that, but I grew up in Brazil, and but I went to the American school in Rio, and we never thought, well, let's do something different. No, we applied for university and college, even though my dad, he was like a self-made man. He had to start working very young because his dad died, and he had like siblings to look after. But eventually, he also got a degree, a law degree, while he had his own business. But if I had this book when I was 17, I probably my life path would have been a lot different. But in a way, I can relate to what you talk about in the book, trying to do something different, not go with the mainstream. I'm the home of alternative economics and contrarian views. And even me at my age, when I look back now, in the last 10, 12 years, yeah, my life has changed a lot. I went from working in the corporate world, because that's where university led me to, working in finance, but I never really felt comfortable in a big corporation and in that setting, because I was always like trying to be my own man. And like you said in the video as well, and we can talk about this, the three important verbs in every language. One is to be, and then the other one is to do and to have. And to me, to be was always really, really important. And sometimes that's conflicted with corporate corporate goals, like you just need to write the tickets, write the trades, make the commission. To me, it had to be done in a proper way, and I always found it difficult. So, yeah, it's great to have you on and talk about this. And maybe we can, and I think to my viewers, they might find it strange because, yeah, the majority of
Well,
the people that
you, well,
watch me are over 45, but go
well,
ahead.
well, let me say this. You're over 45, but I expect that most of our people our audience is exactly the same as yours,
Yeah.
over 45. But almost everyone has a young man in their life, a son, a grandson, a nephew, a neighbor kid, that you've seen that just has a little bit of ambition. Like this is the book for them at least. And so I don't, do you think most 17-year-olds are looking around for the book that has the answer for them? They don't know where to look. They don't know what to do. So they really need the guidance of adults. And I think, I think this is where there's a lot of tension you probably notice between the younger generation and the older
Yeah.
generation these
They're
days.
trying to divide and conquer us through generations, as well as, like
Every other way.
nationality wise and everything.
Yeah. Exactly, and the and it's because the young people don't see they see well, it's because the young people are oriented toward have, they want to have things, that's the goal, and that's the way our society is structured. They see that the older generation has things. That causes envy and jealousy, between them because they're focused, everyone's focused on having. And most often, the older generation, when they talk to the younger generation, they're not talking to them in a way that is really trying to help them in a way that the person can understand. And I really believe that if you got this book in the hands of a young man, I think it would make I could say I can guarantee that if they have a bit of ambition, as Max had, a little bit of ambition at first, he has a lot of ambition now, um, and they run with it. It will change their life. I mean, it will change their life, and that's why we sell it. I'm just going to do a quick little pitch. We sell it in different versions, cheaper to more expensive. The most expensive one is the hardcover because it's full color and it's beautiful. It's as beautiful as we can make it within Amazon's limitations. It's $99, and that's super expensive for a book. I understand. Although if you guys went to college, that one textbook is 150 or $300, right? But this is a single textbook. But when you put the hardcover in the hands, and it's an oversized book, as you can see, when you put it in the hands of a young man, they will know when they open it, they just begin to flip through it. They will know they've not held a book like this before. And I think it'll get their curiosity a little bit more, and they'll dig into it, and they'll have a much greater chance of them actually reading it than if you give them the paperback version of it. So if you really want to if there's someone you really love and care about and want to really move the needle with them, I think that'll have a bigger impact. But we just need them to read it, and we need them
Yeah.
to start reading it. And I think that they'll run with it because here's what young people are faced with today. They have three choices, really. They can go to college, which if they're uh, reasonably intelligent, that's the default. They're going to do that. If they don't do that, they'll look like a failure to everyone around them. The second one is join the military. At least in the United States, that's what people would do. And the third one is that they go into the trades. And there's nothing, that's honorable. There's nothing wrong with that. And you can earn good income in the trades. I have no problem with that. But all of these are simply a path to hopefully being able to get a job that will hopefully provide you with enough income that you can live a life of at least some stability. But there's no guarantee with any of those that can be accomplished. What this book is designed to do is absolutely put you in a position where you can earn an income that can support yourself and allow you to flourish. No doubt that's there. But it's also designed to thoroughly educate you in both how to shape the world around you and also the normal academic stuff that you'd get in college. It's all in there too. I mean, the best you can get the best courses in the world online for virtually free, and we tell you exactly which ones to take. And we do this all. Well, I could go on forever about the topics of it, but maybe we should talk about the be, do, and have
Yeah.
concept.
Well, I just wanted to, you mentioned the generational conflict there, the haves and the have-nots. But I would say, when I graduated college in the mid late 80s, it wasn't that easy to find my first job either. Like in Switzerland, there was like a recession. So I actually did one winter of ski teaching, like little kids. I'm a pretty good skier, but I didn't qualify as to teach. So I taught kids, but then when I finished the skiing, I worked in the ski shop doing like servicing the skis. So there's always things to do, and I also think people are too impatient these days because. I can tell you, it wasn't as plain sailing for me, but once you get your feet on the road, on the right road. Yeah, getting things and having things is not that hard. I think I would add that. And Matt, the other thing as well, the fact that they've inflated the system so much, it looks like the baby boomers have a lot, but it's all, I would say it all could dissipate very quickly. But anyway, can you touch upon those three verbs then and why
Yeah.
they're so important, you think?
Yeah. So be, do, have. These are the most important things. And our culture today is obsessed with have. You want to have a nice house, you want to have a lot of money, you want to have a nice car, you want to have a beautiful mate, you want to have whatever it is, have. And when you look on Instagram or whatever social media, it's all people showing off what they have. And that's what we're motivated by. And that's a gigantic mistake because have is a byproduct of other things. It's not, I mean, I say this to somebody, I have a lot of shit. I've been successful by any measurement I think that's out there. And I mean, I have a lot of stuff, but I got it by doing a lot of stuff, over many years, building many businesses. And so do is the operative. Do is the one that where all things are created. And this book is about doing. And the problem with most people is they really don't know exactly what to do. Instead, they look at the options that are laid out before them, and they're very few. Like I said, for a young man, it might be three choices. And so what can they do? They just pick one of those and hope for the best. Well, we offered an alternative path that is completely different than those, and it does work. But the most important one of those is B. It's B. And the problem is that no one even asks the question of a young man, and this is the question that motivates them more than anything else, really. It's what kind of man do you want to become? What do you want to become? And I think that the reason that we see people really of all ages, but you could pick some in the millennial generation, certainly some in my Generation X, the same that are kind of aimless still in their lives, and it's because they've not figured out yet the B part. They just haven't figured that out because they've not even asked the question. And we explain all of this, and we kind of we don't force because it's the book. They don't have to do it, but we have an exercise in there where they actually craft a personal code because you've got to have like Doug and I are anarchist types. Like we don't like rules of any kind, except for one set of rules, and these are the rules that we create for ourselves to follow, lines that we will not cross, for our own behavior. And so the personal code consists of that, where the person because every young man engages in activities that make them feel small sometimes. And so we ask them to identify those things. What are the things that you do that make you feel bad about yourself when you do them? And then just stop doing those things. Stop doing those things. So create those rules around those things. And it could be, endless scrolling. It could be baby porn. It could be who knows what. But those things that make them feel small, just say no to those things. And it's amazing the power of saying no. Like that's the most masculine characteristic there is the ability of a man to say no. And so we encourage that in them. And then so it's this list of rules that they create for themselves that are theirs, personal. Not that they expect others to follow, but that are only for them. And then on the other side of that, we introduce them to the ancient virtues of both Greece and Rome and say these are things to aspire to. Now they might not all call to you, but there will be a few in here that do. And pick the ones that that motivate you, that whether it's courage or whether it's just it could be anything, honestly. But we go through about 15 specific virtues, outlining them, and we say pick the ones that call to you, that call to your higher self, and put those in there as something that you'll strive toward constantly. This is what the ancient Greeks were all about, was to try and adopt these virtues and live by them as much as possible. And in that you find the B by having your rules, and then by the pursuit of virtue. So you develop this personal code and have this thing kind of in the background then, and then get out there and do. Because most young men, they are chomping at the bit to do something that matters, and they just need to be pointed in the right direction. And most of the book is devoted to pointing them in that direction and telling them exactly what to do quarter by quarter over a period of 4 years. My son is now 2 years into it. And I can tell you the difference it's made in him is absolutely remarkable. Somewhere along the lines, he went from this anxious 17-year-old with no real independence at all, and you could see a little bit of ambition in him, but not much, to to a man. I mean, he's a man now. It's, I don't know, as a father, witnessing it is remarkable. And I can't pinpoint exactly when it happened, but it happened. And yeah, and I have a lot of faith in the younger generation. I know a lot of people don't, but if, I'm telling you, if you give them the right direction and give them, if you give them the right direction and you give them a way that they can go on a hero's journey, really, which is what they all crave, they will thrive under those conditions.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And you also talk about like disabusing people with bad or conventional ideas. So, like, and show
Yeah,
them that there's another way, right? So, yeah, it's the
yeah,
contrarian view. And, on this channel here, I've been focusing more on how how to get more, how to have more, or keeping what you have through precious metals. But I also try to live by a set of principles and expose the fraudulent nature of our monetary system. So that has helped me. I've stuck to that. So I agree with you. You really have to focus on what you want to be because if you don't, you're just going to go through life. You might do okay, but you're never really going to find your calling, right?
yeah. And you know how the monetary system we know is a scam, but what other systems around us are also a scam? And one of the things I try to disabuse the notion of is this idea of you got to climb the ladder to success. That metaphor is just awful. I mean, and it's trained from the very beginning. In school, in elementary school, it's you learn to listen to authority, to strive to get good grades in this, climb the ladder to be successful there. You want to get into a good college, so you do all the right things to get in a good college, and then you think that then you think that at the top of that ladder you'll have arrived, and then things will make sense to you. But as soon as you get to the top, you realize you're at the bottom of another new ladder to climb, and it gets more competitive the more the more ladders you get up, and then you're in a corporate career where you're climbing the ladder to success again, once again. And this climbing ladders is chasing ghosts. Success is not there. This is just keeping you in the system, setting you up to be the milk cow forever for the system. And so I think I didn't climb any ladders to find success. Doug didn't climb, Doug's never climbed a ladder in his life. I mean, and he's lived, probably the most extraordinary life of anyone I've ever known. And it's just not the path. And all the people I know, I mean, all of them that I know that are truly successful, did not follow a conventional route. None of them. Like that's a common theme among them all. So now there might be some weird ones out there that end up, CEO of a big company, and they're making a lot of money doing it, but those are extremely rare. Most of them, like the success you've had with this YouTube channel, Mario. I mean, it's totally unconventional. I mean, you stepped away from the conventional route and did something extraordinary, and I think you've been rewarded for it, and you certainly made a big impact on people's lives because you ignored the ladder.
Yeah, I sure did. And I remember when I was in the corporate world, family members, you say, "Oh, you need to become a director to really move ahead." And I was like frustrated. I thought, what about just doing my job well? It doesn't matter if I'm a director. I always thought that was a bit strange. But we were talking about the monetary system, and you sent me the book a couple of days ago, so I haven't had the chance to read it all. It's a long book, but I wonder if you thought about the Rockefellers. And the reason I say that is
Yeah.
because there's a lot of stuff out on social media, and I've read it even before social media, that the Rockefellers, who were well were and still are very powerful in the banking and corporate world, that they basically set up the medical system that we have in the early 1900s, and like from 1920 onwards, not just the Rockefellers, but all the big, what are they called, tax-free foundations. They've steered the educational system in the way they want because J.D. Rockefeller said once that competition is a sin and that he hated competition and that he wanted the public just to be like cogs in the wheel. So I actually think that the way education has been pushed, at least in the last 50 years, is part of that. And what you and Doug are doing with this book, I think, is great. I don't know if you've heard of Iserby. I forgot her name, her first name, Charlotte Iserby Thompson. She worked for the Reagan Department of Education. She tried to warn him that America, the young people of America, were being dumbed down by the educational system. And her dad was Skull and Bones, so which is
Hmm.
really ironic. But she tried to warn Reagan, and they sacked her from that. And but like you said, I think this system is unraveling for higher education. I think, except for a few universities, and there are courses, like you and Doug said, there are things that are useful that you can do at university. So maybe you could touch upon.
Yeah. Yeah, no, well, I definitely understand the Rockefeller system and how their influence on education and the way it was structured and to develop cogs. No doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. And, I sent my kids before, I sent them to the best private schools I could find before COVID. And then during COVID, everybody went automatically to online only. And I got to watch what was happening. This was the best private schools I could find where we were, and we were living in Denver at the time. I got to see what they were assigned. I got to see the class, just sitting in this off to the side watching what they were doing. And it was shocking to me, even there at this supposedly good private school, um, the the total to let's put it this way, to accomplish what they were supposed to accomplish for their assignments for the day, which certainly I don't think were good enough. It only took them 90 minutes to accomplish at home all of the assignments that they were at school for 8.5 hours. And that was shocking to me, that alone. I'm like, why the hell are these kids being trapped, in school all day when they're doing literally 90 minutes of work? Because they would get their assignments in the morning, and then they would have them done, by 10:30 in the morning, and then they had all day to do whatever they wanted. So after witnessing all of this for a few weeks, I said, forget it, and I started homeschooling them. And I only wish I'd done that from the beginning because I think it was a huge waste for all this time that they spent in school. And I know not everyone has the ability to homeschool their kids. I get it. But like my daughter now is 17. She's basically at the stage that my son was at when we started working on the book. Um, and she's been homeschooled since 2020, and she's remarkable. She's totally, I mean, she's an incredible young lady, and she will be following her own version of this. This is written for young men. It's meant to speak to, their the unique anxieties that boys have and hopes and motivations that boys have. So we'll be doing a version probably for girls as
Oh,
well.
that's yeah,
Certainly,
that's good to hear. So the preparation for girls.
yeah, I think, well, again, I wouldn't have done this if it weren't for my son, and I have that. Now I'm back at square one with the exact same problem with my daughter that I feel an obligation to solve for her to make sure she is set up properly. So we're working on it. Although she's read this and she likes it, but it doesn't speak to her in the same. Boys want that hero's journey, They need a rite of passage of some kind. And it doesn't exist in our society today. And this book gives them both of those things and helps them really become a man that's capable of doing a lot in the world. So, and it makes them in high demand for virtually anything. So,
Yeah. So could you do you want to go through all the practical skills that you recommend in the preparation? I think that's quite
sure.
interesting.
Sure, sure, I could do that. Now I have to say, there are literally we broke it up to model a 4-year education in college. We broke it up into quarters. We call these quarters cycles. And each cycle has something, a main thing that you're doing. And we call that the anchor course. And that anchor course is something that you're doing. It's physical in the world where you walk away with a real skill. A real skill. Most of the times, these skills have some economic value, meaning you could get a job by the time you accomplish that. But we don't expect people to do that, to stop there and just start with that job. We expect them to stack these skills on top of one another because that'll make them, that'll get them to the Renaissance man ideal,
Yeah.
which is what we have in mind. But we could have picked a whole number of different things. And the ones that we picked, honestly, they're somewhat biased because I picked ones that I knew would motivate my son.
Yeah.
And so we started with that. And the first one, and then we also tell people they can be done in any order. But sorry, I'm just flipping through the book so I can tell you exactly what they are. Um, they could be done in any order. But the first one we call, and they all have a theme. So the first one is medic, and so this is one my son went and he became an EMT. And EMT in the United States is a emergency medical technician. Essentially, it's a step down from a paramedic, but if you get picked up in an ambulance, there's probably a paramedic there and an EMT there as well. So they know the real skills about how to treat trauma, how to treat injuries that occur, and that is a marketable skill. You could work on an ambulance. What my son actually, he got offered a gig after he became an EMT to work on wildfires during the summer, and he actually shockingly earned $600 a day doing that. I mean, when I was in the army at his age, and I think my take-home pay was about that for a month. And I know the dollar was worth a lot more then, but still, $600 a day is pretty good money. So that's what he did as his summer gig shortly after that. The second one is pilot, and this is the most expensive cycle there is becoming a private pilot. And I understand, but well, let me say, all of these in total, if you did all of these, the total cost is basically equivalent to 1 year at a prestigious university in the United States, if you did all of them. And with my son, I probably irresponsibly only saved enough money for him that I put in a Vanguard account, added only a little bit to over time, enough to pay for about 1 year at a prestigious university. And so he had that as seed capital. But we talk about also in this book how to finance the program. Just like how you used to be able to work your way through college, you can work your way through this. So pilot is the second one. And so my son started off flying in Denver, Colorado, getting his pilot, working at first to get his pilot's license there, and has done some more flying down here in Uruguay too, to complete that cycle. The third one is cowboy, and that's where you actually learn all the things that you would as a cowboy: how to shoe a horse, how to wrangle horses, how to ride horses, how to do the things that cowboys do. And I know that sounds, is that practical? It is practical for me because I live on a regenerative cattle ranch, but it might not be for most people, but it is quite an adventure and it really speaks to young men and they learn a lot about themselves as they go through this process, a crucible, if you will. The fourth one is you actually learn how to build a house. There's this great school in the Northeast in the US called the Shelter Institute, where in 3 weeks they teach you to design and build a home. And from figuring out how all the wiring works and the plumbing and the foundation and figuring all that stuff out, how it all works, to actually setting up a timber frame home in 3 weeks. So each of these cycles is three months long, but most of the anchor activities themselves, the hardcore, really intense hands-on part, often will be 3 weeks or a month long only. Okay, so anyway, that's how that works. And the other one is a chef. Doug believes it's really important to be able to cook well. To be able to prepare a few good meals can actually get you a long way in life. And so we tell people we found this great school in one of my favorite cities in the world, in Florence, where they go for a month, they live there, they learn a little Italian while they're there, and they learn how to cook some great Italian cuisine. And they also get to experience a new part of the world, which they should, steeped in deep history. And one thing I should add to these about these cycles real quick is that you have the anchor activity. Layered in that is a whole series of academic courses that they take online. And we tried as best as we could to make it so that they all match in the theme. So that when you're going through school, you're learning lots of facts that are seemingly totally unrelated to one another. And so it's hard to really retain them well. But done under a single theme, the reading that's encouraged or prescribed, the courses that are prescribed, and the anchor activity work together to shape this like lattice work so that you have a better understanding of the both the abstract academic elements you learn as well as the practical that you learn along the way. So that's the fifth cycle. There's one that's learning to operate all this heavy equipment, essentially, backhoes and bulldozers. There's this great school which certifies you on all of this equipment, which is number one, fun to do as a young person to be able to do it. But I also believe that a man should be able to operate basically any kind of vehicle they get into. I think that's a wonderful skill. And I like James Bond. He finds himself the only matter of escape is a helicopter. Good thing he knows how to fly one. I mean, we don't have helicopter in here, but we do have pilot in here. So that's a big one. And that one immediately qualifies you for work if you wanted it, and high paid work. Um, we do have one cycle we set aside as a work cycle, or where we say when you find the right opportunity, because opportunities will be thrown your way as you go through this process. Well, people say, hey, you know what? I'd like you to. Would you be willing to do this? I'll hire you. I'll pay you this. Like my son did the wildland firefighting thing. So he did that for a cycle, a work cycle, where he earned some money that helped again subsidize his way through this program, but also learned about a lot about working together with others in a team and to be less. Well, I'm an introvert, so is my son, and so being in an environment like that where you had to work with people of all types on these fire crews and to be effective. So we do have a work cycle as one of them because there will be an opportunity where a work opportunity will be thrown your way that you'll want to take and explore and just see where you can go with it because you can learn. My son also worked on a geophysics crew for a period of time where he was out because we're into the metals and mining and stuff like that. So he worked on a geophysics crew for a while in the Nevada desert, actually, which was a great experience for him too. Didn't pay quite as well as the wildland firefighting did, but there's a welder cycle. We think you learn a lot being a welder. Again, you could take that as a career and earn. It's a very high demand field, but it's also a great skill because what we're trying to do with these first things, the first cycles are all trying to give people the knowledge and skills to be able to shape the physical world around them. So they go, when there's something around them they'd like to make, to see happen, to create, that they have the ability themselves to do it. Or if they're going to hire someone to do it, they understand what it means to do these things. These are all things, God, I wish I had done when I were younger. I mean, I really do. Um, the ninth cycle is fighter, and this is where you go to Thailand for 3 months, and there's a school. They have two locations, one on the beach in Thailand and one in Chiang Mai, where you actually study Muay Thai for a few months. And we think it's important to be able to defend yourself, of course, but we also think that a young man needs to be able to confront this from a personal discipline standpoint, that goes into that. Plus, you want to be exposed to a little bit of the foreign and exotic. Again, this hero's journey part is a big piece of this, of what young men really want. It's why when I was just starting, I was poor, so I had to go in the army to have a chance to go to college even. But others were taking sometimes a gap year. They would go and the thing is see the exotic and backpack across Europe or something like that. And travel is good, but travel with a purpose is great. Especially if you're learning new skills along the way. Another one is sailing. Like my son learned to sail, never really been on a boat before, so he was thrown in the deep end hardcore. He learned to sail. This was actually recommended by a former Navy SEAL, Matt Bracken. and he recommended one of the best high latitude captains on Earth. And my son learned to sail around the Falkland Islands and sailed through the Strait of Magellan. He's a certified crewman for a sailboat. He can do that as a job now, but it was one of the craziest adventures he's ever had. He learned a lot about himself and gained a new skill along the way. Survivalist is another one, and this is where you actually go to one of these outdoor survival schools and you live in the wild for a few weeks and really get your mettle tested quite a bit. It's quite intense for a few weeks, actually. But again, this is about shaping the bee as much as it is learning these real skills, understanding what you're capable of in terms of, yeah, we live a life of comfort, most of us, at least relative comfort. And so it's important for a young man to be tested in ways and understand that what they really need and what they really don't need and how they can still manage regardless of what's happening around them. And this gives them a great deal of confidence. And farmers, the next one, I don't know if you know who Joe Salatin is. He's one of my personal heroes, just like Doug is. But he's a farmer in Virginia, and he's done a lot to help a lot of young people learn how to learn the skills of doing it right. And where most farms don't make any money, Joel makes a ton of money with his farm because of the way he does it. It's totally unique and totally different. So we encourage people to try to sign up and be part of his program if they can. And if they can't, there are others that are out there. But these are real skills. I find them quite useful. Of course, I live on a regenerative cattle ranch, so they're particularly useful to me. But then, so these are basic, hard skills, physical world, experiential things so far. In the later stages, it gets a little bit more into the abstract. Maybe the places where you can really make more money, frankly, as real, where you can create real economic value. So there's an entrepreneurship cycle. As an entrepreneur, I love entrepreneurs. I mean, I have this bias toward people who are entrepreneurs, to people who step out and do something and build something, create something. I mean, in a way, I see entrepreneurs as artists it's a totally different art form, but they create something from nothing, and it's a beautiful thing to witness. And so there's an entrepreneurship cycle that happens to be the one that Maxim is doing starting in, I guess, about 10 days. And he'll be doing it for the next 3 months. He'll be working to build a business that's around, because he's here right now, it'll be around using drones for precision agriculture, actually. I think there's a huge business opportunity there. I think that could be a giant business for him. Actually. So there's entrepreneurship, and investor is the next one. Understanding how the markets work. Of course, they're very weird these days, especially the precious metals market. But understanding how it works, we explained way before the cycle how money really works. There's a whole section on wealth and economics before the cycles even start, so people understand what real money is, what debt is, how important savings is, what a difference between saving, investing, and speculating and gambling, right? And all that's explained to them and how important it is so that the foundation is laid. But there's an entire cycle was totally devoted to investing. Then there's one we call hacker. And we don't mean hacker by hacking into computers. We really mean by learning the skills of technology to be able to build things in the virtual world, build apps, to build websites using these tools that are available today, including AI, that make it much, much easier. So that what I don't want is a young person to encounter something in life that they have no idea how to solve the problem they encounter, that they have a basic understanding of the way most of the things that they will encounter in life work, and will have the framework for how to solve it. And the hacker one is devoted to that. The 16th cycle we have is, I think, really cool. It's the maker cycle, and in that cycle they use one of these facilities called a fab lab. And a fab lab, it came out of MIT, but they're all over the world now. And in these fab labs, they have 9 specific machines, and with these machines, you can create anything. And this isn't mass scale manufacturing, but this is totally bespoke stuff, one-off things. Anything from a circuit board to a piece of furniture can be made in one of these fab labs. And so the idea is that they come in and they, of their own creation, some product that they'd like to make, they make that product. And by the end of all of this, they've got skills to engage in the physical world and skills to engage in the much more abstract world, which is, of entrepreneurship, of creating new products, and of investing. And the key is the stacking of all these things. So you get the stacking of all these real world skills plus more of the academic stuff than you would get in college. If you get your BA in the arts, you miss out on all the sciences. If you do the sciences, you miss out on all the arts. So those are all included in this and what's prescribed as far as the academic portion, exactly which classes to take. And there's room for electives too, and we give them a whole list of what those should be, and lots of reading along the way. The book turns them into good readers. People who learn to love to read, and that's something that's kind of being lost among most people today. Actually, I know you're someone who loves to read because you've discovered the power of it, the magic in it, and it never ends. And young people, because they don't get exposed to good books, I think they never really get it because they read books that don't feel applicable to them, that don't relate to them, that don't inspire them, and we try and we show them where to start and what to read.
Yeah, and Doug said, I think it was not yesterday, but the video in which I first heard of the preparation, that even the preparation could be, not in peril, but it could be really difficult with the way AI is coming into the world. He seems to think it's just as significant as the Industrial Revolution. But I would say that having, and again, I haven't read the book, but from what you told me, it's a really broad and general book that helps you to act, to be, and to do. I think it will be a good book to have in an environment where you have to adapt. That's what I've done a bit, in the last 10 years. So adapting to the world is also really important.
Yeah,
And
there's a chapter, Mario, devoted to future proofing yourself with this AI stuff, because the fact is that the people that are in college right now studying anything are in real trouble. They really are. I mean, for the last decade, let's say the last 20 years, the most financially lucrative thing you probably could have studied would have been finance. And that's being totally destroyed by AI. All these first level, entry level people in finance that come in, those jobs can easily be done better with AI today, as it is today. And so that isn't and that was the best one, and that's destroyed by this. But there are so many others that were less financially lucrative that are more easily destroyed by AI. So in my mind, the only way to future-proof yourself is to be a person of capability, a person who is dynamic and knows a lot of things, knows a lot about a lot of things, and doesn't require the system to give them an opportunity to be successful, because the system is going to be, there will be opportunities that come in the future, but the system is not set up to prepare people for those opportunities as they arise. In fact, quite the opposite.
yeah, so Matt, it was really great talking about your book, and I wanted to tell the viewers I'm not doing this to get commissions or anything, and I think Matt and Doug said the same thing. They're not doing this to make money. I just like the concept in the book, and I actually think, from what you've told me, it's a great value for $99. I think it could change someone's life, and you can get the paperback, it's cheaper.
And the Kindle version too, it's even cheaper.
Yeah, and also maybe we can talk again soon about Uruguay. I was wondering how you're fitting in there and how how life is in Uruguay, because here in the UK, a lot of people are leaving because our government is trying to like tax everyone. I guess they want everyone to own nothing and be happy. So maybe that's a topic you might want to cover. And I think a lot of the viewers would be not just in the UK, but everywhere else, wanting to hear how Uruguay is.
Sure, I'd be happy to talk to you about that anytime. Anytime.
Great, great. Thank you, Matt. And I'll put a link to the Amazon page in the description if people are interested in looking at the preparation.
All right. Thanks so much, Mario. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome.